you had your coffee already because we're going to be going on a quick ride here through a whole lot of resources. So today's session, or this morning's session, is on accessible online tools for contextualizing learning in IT, business administration, and finance. And I'm going to share my screen here. Now, I do have to mention that, which window? There we go. That this is a little messier than, a session that you're just seeing the slideshow, because I'm going to be going between all these different tabs to show you a whole bunch of different resources. So my apologies in advance for the kind of messiness on the screen, but please forgive me. And I hope you will find something that is something you can use today, tomorrow, this week in your work. So a little bit about myself. My name is Megan Farrell. My organization is Mustard Seed Training, and this link right here, as we mentioned, goes to blog.mustseed, MUSTSEED.org. So if you go there right now, right this instant, the very most recent blog post is the session for right now, today. And it starts with a little reminder of our schedule for the week. So we'll be doing hospitality this afternoon, healthcare, construction, infrastructure, law and security, and then finishing with early childhood education. So I hope you can make it to multiple sessions. And as the week goes along, this blog is going to continue to update with the slides from those sessions. So if you want to follow, this is where I post any information for the professional development sessions that I do. On top of that, when I'm not doing adult education, I work in the field of religious education, actually as a woodworker. So I make materials for a Montessori-based form of religious education called Catechesis of the Good Shepherd. So I know many of us wear many hats, and my other hat is actually in small business, and I do all the financials for my team of artisans. So I'll talk a little bit about that as we go along as well. So I just want to extend my thanks again to OC and UDC for hosting today's session. They do have a ton of resources that are linked from these little logos. If you go to the blog, I should also mention below this, you'll have the slideshow that you can actually see, flip through, or download. And the other download on the blog site is a document for contextualized lesson plans. So this document is for all 7 sessions that we'll do this week. And so if you want to follow along, I will show it to you on my screen, but if you want to follow along from home, you can actually download this as well. And when you download it, this table of contents is all hyperlinked, so you can actually just click to the industry and resource that you want to get to. All right, so that's kind of our introduction, but our big question for today is, can teaching trades transform lives? And I would say not only lives, but communities. I think especially what folks were talking about this morning, you're doing work that's really meant to bring economic accessibility and digital inclusion to the entire community in Washington, D.C. So, of course, the answer is yes, right? That is why we're here. Your work is so important, not only to the individuals who you serve, but it elevates the entire community in which you live by making it more competitive and just improving people's quality of life. So thank you for the work you do. And my hope today is to give you a few more resources that support you in that work. I also want to say, any time in these sessions is question time. So if you have a request, if you want me to slow down or make something bigger or go a little deeper into something, or you just have a question that's, tangential, just feel free to either stick it in chat or take yourself off mute and interrupt me. It's not, the session is for you. So please let me know how best to serve you. So what we're going to go over today is I'm going to show you our contextualized lesson plan. All of our sessions have a template for all of the industries to give you a sense of what can a contextualized lesson plan look like. It's just kind of a framework. And then we're going to go through a specific business lesson plan, IT, finance, you'll see. It's creating invoices and using formulas. So it's a little bit of tech, it's a little bit of finance, it's a little bit of business. And then we're going to end with a whole lot of links. So I'm just going to give you, kind of a quick bam, 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 all these things that you have, resources that are available specifically to you in DC for your community. The other thing is in all of my sessions, I still, as you were talking, I was writing things down on paper. I still believe in writing things on paper. And the research shows that, you remember what you write down more than what you type, or more than what you hear, or more than what you see. So, and if you have multiple things going on at the same time, that's really going to reinforce it. So what I want you to write down is not the stuff I say, but the things in your mind. That's where you're going to want to remember tomorrow, next week, next month. Oh yeah, Megan said this one thing, and now I have to remember what it is. Don't go all the way through all my slides and everything. Just take a little note for yourself, because you are the most important person here to interpret what I'm saying. So I keep saying this word, contextualized learning. What exactly does this mean? Does anyone want to throw out your definition for this phrase? I know it's on all of our sessions, so hopefully that's something that drew you in. But what if you were to explain this to another colleague? What would you say? And you can toss it in the chat if you like, or you can get off mute if you feel so brave.
I would say focused learning.
Awesome. Yeah. So, and focusing on a specific context, right? So the most important thing in contextualized learning is focusing it on either a familiar context that they already know, or a context where they're actually going to be working. So I appreciated Dr. Bruce's introduction to me as a realist. I believe in getting concrete to the real world. And that is exactly the context in which we want folks to learn. We want them to be able to apply it. All right, so our contextualized lesson plan, and anybody else wants to throw something in, feel free. But if you are just joining us, if you go to blog.mustseed.org, at that site, you will find the first blog post has our slides and then this document. So this document has contextualized lesson plans in it, and it starts with a template. So this is for you to fill in on your own. There's one version with notes that kind of gives you prompts for what to put in what sections, and then there's another version that is just straight up blank. So so you can fill in what you need as you go along. So my template here, and just so you know what my role is with contextualized instruction, I've been working with our local or regional adult literacy organization called the Literacy Cooperative of Greater Cleveland. In 2014, we decided that we needed something that was focused on our context, our region, and the industries that were going to be high growth, or especially high growth for entry-level workers in our area, and that had resources that were local. So I was one of the many teachers that contributed to 5 curricula that we developed in 5 different industries. And then 5 years later, we got some money to update that. And so when we did the update, they came to me and said, "Hey, Megan, we really like the format that you use. Can you take everybody's lessons and standardize them into that format?" So that's where this template kind of comes from, is when I went back into those 5 different industries and developed somewhat of a more standardized um, formatting for those lessons, so that it would be easier for folks to follow. And so that's what I'm sharing with you today. So the one that we have, we're getting into, so that's what this site is right here. The Literacy Cooperative of Greater Cleveland has a contextualized curriculum, and I'm currently logged in, so I'm going to log out so you can see what it looks like as a first-time user. So it is completely free. You do have to register, however. So, and the reason you have to register is because this is not only a free resource, but it is grant funded as a research, ongoing field research project. So, and I know that you also have some action research things going on in DC. So this is at least once a year, we send out a survey to those folks who are using the curriculum to see how they're using it, how can we improve it, what's best, what's worst, and then we use that information to get the funding to improve it the second time around, 5 years later. So hopefully we can continue to update this resource for you. We now have folks across the country that are using this curriculum. So you can register in that link, and then once you register, you just download. You can go in and choose the industry. We have digital literacy is what we're going to be looking at today. And it's just one big PDF document that you can download. So the lesson plan I have for you, what I've done is taken one of our lesson plans from that session and kind of adapted a little bit for our context for you in DC. All right, so you're going to the digital literacy once you get approved. So all of our curricula were actually field tested and in multiple rounds. So they were lessons that were written by actual instructors in the field, had been used with students and piloted. And then, as I said, we continue to be in touch with those folks who are using the lesson plans that we wrote to see, what can we update, what can we improve. So Digital C is Cleveland Foundation, Literacy Cooperative, Must See Training is me, and then this row on the bottom is Aspire of Greater Cleveland that goes into the libraries and everything, providing adult basic education. This context was specifically an organization that was providing preparation courses for the IC3 exam. And so that folks who didn't have a background in digital literacy could get into entry-level IT jobs, even if they did not have something on their resume showing their skill set in various Microsoft and all of those sort of things. So we have 3 modules. The problem that they were having, like a lot of certification programs, is that even though they were covering all the technical information, they were finding that folks coming in either, maybe they didn't have a high school diploma, or they did, but their skills in reading and math had, if you don't use it, you lose it. They had degraded a little bit. And so they needed some extra support. And so that's where the adult educators came in and said, okay, we're going to go into career exploration. We're going to do numeracy and professionalism, because those were kind of the areas where folks were a little weak coming through the initial Digital C programs. Our sample lesson today is going to be from our numeracy section where we kind of blend the digital with math. So I said all this stuff. Did we remember what contextualized learning is? Anybody want to hazard? What were we talking about again? What is digital literacy? Oops, I gave you the answer too soon. I clicked back. All right. Focus learning, lessons in a specific real world context. So every one of our curricula focus on 3 key strategies, and I'm going to just pull out one of them today. One is that they're interdisciplinary. I mentioned how this one brings together math and digital technical skills together. So we're always teaching 2 things at once. They're contextualized, so we pull from a real world context, and they are differentiated. This has the heart, it unlocks the heart because differentiating means that you are adapting to the audience in front of you, right? And you're doing different activities for different folks or allowing them to work a little bit at their own pace. So I will go into the kind of the text of the lesson plan next, but just as you're thinking of the frame of this lesson plan, think about it in view of differentiation. We have sections for review of information for folks who need even more basic math than what we are covering in this lesson. We have large group activities where folks are going to be doing activities like finding a template, creating cost formulas, filling it in, looking at different scenarios, and they may complete those at different rates. So you kind of have to adapt, continue to give people work or pair people who finish faster with people who are taking a little bit longer. And then also our folks who are accelerated, the folks who, they had to come back and review this stuff, or maybe they're trying to get into a new industry, but they just pick things up real fast. You don't want them to get bored and disruptive. So what are some activities you can give them to keep them engaged while other folks are catching up? All right. So to dive into our sample lesson plan, we are going to be focusing specifically on a Microsoft Word template. You can, of course, adapt this to if you're using a different software system. And we have a bunch of notes here. And to focus on our review, here's some information not only for the students to review, but also sometimes for the instructors, right? Because as adult education instructors, often we never know what adults know or don't, and we're having to refresh folks in all of K-12 content in a way that no other teachers have to know. It's hard to keep all that in your head, so I find for myself kind of go back and refresh right before I do a lesson. So we have math is fun.
Excuse me, Megan, at least on my side, it looks like you got accidentally muted. So I've unmuted you. Try again.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Hopefully that hasn't been going on for too long. There we go. Are we good now? Can you hear me?
Very well.
Thank you so much.
Good.
All right. So did we talk about PEMDAS? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Did you hear that part?
Can you begin again right around there?
Sure. So yeah, so these items for review are ways that either you as an instructor could refresh your knowledge, or if you have tutors, volunteer tutors, or if you have students who need something even more basic than what the level of math that you're working at. So this lesson assumes somebody knows order of operations, but here's a little content that you can do as a review for those folks. And then also Khan Academy talks about variables, expressions, and equations. Because here we're going to be creating cost formulas, sticking them into a template, but some folks may need to refresh what are we talking about here when we're talking about equations and variables. And then as we go along, each lesson has resources. So here we provide for you a Microsoft Word file that you can download from Google Drive. Here's our little download button. And that would be editable. So this is a sample that you can use with students that they can actually go in and edit. Now, you may have, I know it was mentioned that we're all kind of living in flex right now, right? My 13-year-old son is downstairs right now because his whole middle school is closed because of multiple teachers having COVID. So, you know, as of yesterday, he was going to be going in person, and today he's hybrid online, and hopefully he'll be going back in person. So that's why it's hybrid. But that may be happening to us, right, as adult educators, as professionals. So, so how do we share this if we're not, if we don't know from one day to the next? If we're in person, if we're remote, there's a variety of ways you can share these kind of things. I know probably a lot of you have a particular learning management system. Maybe you use Google Classroom, maybe you use Edmodo. There's a whole laundry list of places where you can kind of put your classes and put a bunch of resources on there. So you could certainly upload a file to that session for the day, or other folks I know will email. So they will, you know, on the day of, they'll email all the resources that folks need to access to complete the activities. And if you have any other things that you use that you would like to share with other folks about how you would share these kind of resources, like templates as you go along, feel free to stick that in chat, because that's a very valuable thing to share. All right, so we have our objectives. I did not use standards, or we did not use standards in these lesson plans. However, I believe depending on your funding source, there may be specific standards that you have to stick into the objectives here, whether they're Common Core standards, sometimes they're industry standards for a specific certification. So that's what you stick in this objectives section. We always start with some kind of introduction, opening kind of thought question. The other thing that this does is it allows folks who are kind of trickling in to have that time where you're rewarding the folks who showed up on time with a substantive discussion, but at the same time, folks who come in 5 to 10 minutes late are not kind of being penalized, or aren't going to fall behind not knowing what you're talking about. So in particular here, our intro question is, you know, does anybody do odd jobs? Does anybody work under the table? Has anybody been a subcontractor where you might have to use and give an invoice? This is definitely something I've done since 2008 is when I started doing contracting work. But I know a lot of our students are also entrepreneurs by necessity. So hopefully we can give them context in which they would find this useful. Then once we've talked about, hey, so instead of answering the question in the middle, why do I need to know this? You start with something that shows them, hey, here's a real life scenario in which you actually need to know this. So then they hop on the computers, open up Microsoft Word, and then find a template. And then we also, as I mentioned, offer a sample for you that you can use to give them. But also we want them to have that practice of seeing what a template is and how to find it within the system. So then once they have found the document and opened it, that's when we get into the math. So yes, the document is set up to do the math for you, but you have to set up the math correctly to get the right number out of it. So this walks through a few examples of how to create cost formulas. For example, C equals M plus 20 times H. C being the cost, M being the materials that you bought, 20 being hours, hourly fee, and H being the number of hours. So it kind of walks through a scenario there. And then if they are having trouble with your, they're trying to add M to 20 before multiplying it to H, that's when you have to kind of review your order of operations, right? That they're supposed to do multiplication before addition. And then here we have a whole bunch of YouTube videos that provide real life scenarios that you can use to further practice. And I call this kind of guided practice. So you walk through once where you're kind of showing, and then after that, you're talking through it with the students. You're starting and stopping the video. And I think I have the audio off here, but this is one about commission, where it kind of explains what commission is and then sets up some formulas for how commission may be paid. So you can use those as examples in your lesson. And then there's all of our lessons have way more activities than you could probably do in most sessions, unless they're 2 to 3 hours long each. Some of our instructors who were participating had the luxury of working with students all day, whereas many of the rest of us have folks for, maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours at a time. So it kind of threw in way more activities than maybe is even in one session. So you can have lots of practice, small group activity, additional lessons, additional practice, etc. But once they've kind of gotten at least through a few scenarios and you have a feeling that your students are understanding how to set up their formula, that's when they start plugging the formula back into the template. So this starts with a little bit of a project of looking at actual services provided by IT companies to think of an actual service scenario. If they go to Office Max and they charge X number of hours, dollars per hour for cleaning up viruses, or there's all sorts of different scenarios you can use here. But then they would then take those real life services, plug that back into your template that you found or created earlier. So this just kind of walks through the steps of that. And then we also tried to always plug into each lesson some time for personalized learning. So this gives you a chance for, and hopefully whether you're working one-on-one with folks, I know we talked a bit about apprenticeships, or you're doing a large group class, you want some of your time to not have to be intensively teaching that person, right? You want them to be able to do a little bit of learning on their own while still being on the clock or in class time, right? So that's what this personalized learning does, is it allows students to work in a system that adapts to their own pace. So the two resources that we recommended for that are things that are available to OC programs. One of them is Computer Essentials, offered by Essential Education, and I actually worked for them for a couple years, working on some of these products, but mostly training folks on how to use them. So what Computer Essentials does is it has a series, it actually is kind of aligned to the IC3. It has 3 sections like the IC3 has 3 sections, computing fundamentals, living online, and then key applications and information. But what it does, what all of Essential Education's systems do, and you have multiple available to you through OC, or if you get a contract with Essential Education separately, they adapt to the student. So the student goes in, takes an assessment. That assessment figures out, here's what you've already mastered. So we're going to give you lessons in the areas where you still need to learn. So that keeps students engaged. They're not just plugging through one lesson after another, even if they already know the content, where they feel like they need to click through. Everything that they're given to study is something that they can either improve, they haven't quite mastered it yet, or they need to really learn it and build up their skills. So in those 3 areas. And then our other resource that is available for you is the North Star Digital Literacy Assessment. Now, what I loved about going to this site, I mean, I know it's originally from Minnesota, Literacy Minnesota. Folks all over the country use this. But when I went to find locations in the US, and you look at where folks are located, look at DC area here. I mean, there's so many folks in your region. It's just kind of a hot spot for using the North Star Digital Literacy Assessment. So that's fantastic. What that means is if you are a testing location, not only can you give folks the certificate if they pass, but also your students can have access to their full online learning curriculum, which is aligned to their assessment. So similarly, this is another one where you can give people kind of like the IC3, they can actually certify their skills so that if they don't have that resume that says, hey, I've worked in this field before, they can still get into IT. Or even if they're not going into IT and they just need basic digital literacy. I mean, the number 1 job in the US right now is truck driver, right? And every year, a higher and higher percentage of truck drivers, I think it's above 90% of truck drivers now, have to do all their documentation digitally. And that has been a change over the past decade. And then in the next decade, right, all of our truck drivers are going to be having to deal with automated or self-driving vehicles and moving from fossil fuels to electric vehicles. Like, what is that going to look like for folks? So there's going to be a lot more having to go into the computer to even just diagnose what happens when you're stuck on the side of the road with the hood up. Those are all, so the digital literacy assessment and those kind of skills, Computer Essentials, IC3 exam, helps a wide variety of jobs have the basic digital literacy that they need to be successful in the workforce. All right, and then we always have some kind of wrap up at the end, which I'll do with you as well in just a few minutes here to hear, how are you using this? What are you going to apply? What other questions do you have? And then here on the bottom, we always have some even more ideas for how to make sure that your students are working at their own pace and getting their needs met. So, there's a whole lot of different things you can use, whether you use the entire lesson, whether you use a particular resource from that lesson, whether you're just using a strategy like differentiation. I hope you found something there that's applicable to your context. I do want to highlight a few resources here, again, just to really help remember, the North Star Digital Literacy Assessment is both a curriculum. If you're a testing location, it is both a curriculum and it is also a certification. So those things are aligned. Their online course is aligned to the certification that learners will receive. Also, IC3 is another big one nationally, and this is through Certiport. So, and I think there are several, there's also a big hotspot in the DC of Certiport testing locations as well. And one adult ed program in DC that I have been to personally is Academy of Hope Adult Public Charter School. So in each of my sessions, I just kind of went in and said, all right, who is actually using the highlighted resources? I know that they do prepare folks for the IC3 exam. So if that's something you're not doing yet and you would like to get started, they may be a good resource. And I don't know if anybody out there is from Academy of Hope, but I have this random shout out in each of our sessions. So thank you for being an example. And I'm sure all of you have something that you can throw out there that you have used that has been successful. This is the time to do that. Okay, I have this laundry list right in front of us where I tried to show you a wide variety of top picks in this area. But if you have a resource that your organization has been using in the field of IT, business, or finance, or just adult education, workforce preparation in general that you want to pop into chat, now is a great time to do that. So I always have Khan Academy and just about everywhere, and these two links go to different pages. They have a computing side, and they also have economics and finance. Monster.com is another great resource. They not only have job listings, but they also have a lot of great career exploration and resume building and all that sort of stuff. Quizlet, if you've never used Quizlet, this is something I even use for myself. Anybody of any age, it's basically digital flashcards. And flashcards are one of those tools that, again, research shows it is a very effective tool for those kind of things that you have to, either concepts or formulas, etc., that you have to memorize. GCF Learn Free, hopefully that is something else that you've seen, but they also, it is free, as it says in the name. They have a whole laundry list of tech, and they also have lessons on business communication specifically. So those are things that you can either use as something you present as content for a lesson. It's something you can assign to an individual. It can be something that they're using when they're doing their personalized time where they're kind of learning independently, and you can be either catching up on other things, paperwork, working with other students, etc. And then I would be remiss if I did not, in every single session, point you to this page of OC resources. So they have on their page a whole bunch of wonderful resources available for educators. And if we scroll down here to the bottom of our box, this lists some of the things that we mentioned today are essential education tools, career coach for district residents, and a virtual job shadow, which is a video-based career planning platform, which I'll talk a little more in depth in some of our other sessions. If this is something, if you are an OC provider and you would like to have access to this, but you're not sure, you can send an email to this site right there. And I believe that Stacy's probably popping in those links right now. So they have done a great job of really curating some really high quality materials and curricula for you. For finance, especially if you're working with folks who are going to run their own small businesses or just be a part of a small business, a score, mentoring is something I have recommended for decades and have also taken advantage of myself. It's super helpful. And it helps folks get that personalized feedback on their situation. Links for adult educators has just tons and tons of great resources in all sorts of subject areas. This is their financial literacy area. So if you're doing either personalized or microeconomic kind of financial literacy. Day at Dollar General, I can't actually use this because I'm in Chrome and it uses Flash, so I can't show it to you, but it is an interactive for family literacy, kind of showing families working through financial literacy through the specific scenarios at Dollar General. Dollar General is a great, they're not only great for some of the resources that they've funded, but they also are big funders. If you're looking for financial literacy, family literacy, adult literacy funding, Dollar General Foundation is a fantastic partner. And Investopedia, again, something that I use all the time with students and for myself. It really, a lot of the information here, it does have personal finance. It does have kind of broader macroeconomic, and then it has, helping people understand their retirement accounts, what are stocks, what are some investing essentials. And then they have simulators where you can kind of plug in some scenarios in without actually losing money. Basically, you can learn about the stock market without throwing your own money in the pot, which is great. Okay, phew. So again, so many links, so many great resources. What if you get to the end of this session and you say, wow, I know she talked about something that I wanted, but I don't want to go word for word, line for line through that whole lesson plan. What do I do? Okay, so when you are back in our document, our contextualized lesson plans document, and you go to the table of contents, towards the end, I have all web links by industry. So we have all of our resources here from OC. We have the blog.musc.org where you can find the slideshows. And then here's our IT business administration and finance. So it's just the links without any of the explanatory text. So you can find just that one thing that, oh yeah, she had that YouTube video, because YouTube is just, it's great and it's terrible at the same time. It's like a needle in a haystack trying to find the right thing for what you want that actually covers quality content. So we have some curated videos here and all the other Khan Academy. Again, Khan Academy is a huge site, lots of resources, and these links go to the specific lesson or the specific practice problems that are related to this lesson in particular. All right, so you have the links, all the links in one place. Any other questions? And I would love to hear at this point as well, if you have, if you want to tell me anything that was useful, or if there's anything that you're looking for that you didn't get, this would be a great time. Michelle said TV 411 finance was shared. Awesome.
Megan, this is Cheryl Robertson. Thank you very much for your presentation. Boy, I tell you, I learned so much more staying connected to OSCE.
Yes.
So thank you. I have a question. Sometimes as we are, enhancing the way that we screen and select apprentices, we were looking at what were kind of the assessments that we could do. And I wrote down that you had the a North Star Digital Literacy Certification, the IC3. Are any of those like we could use for pre-assessments for apprentices?
Absolutely. I would recommend actually the two that are in the lesson plan. Well, it depends on if you're going to be doing um, any pre-apprenticeship training, I guess, because Computer Essentials does have pre-assessments in it, but then it's specifically designed to go into the curriculum. So the one I would recommend as a pre-assessment would be the North Star Digital Literacy Assessment, and they actually have a free version. So anybody in the public can go in and just take an assessment and see how they're doing.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. So the additional tools, being able to give it as a certification or to be able to have their full curriculum where you can be tracking what folks are doing, that is something you pay for as a testing location. But they do have a free pre-assessment and a limited number of free learning materials there. And then yeah. And just to take it one step further, there are a lot of folks I know who will use the North Star as their pre-assessment, and then they'll go to GCF Learn Free, and they'll use those lessons to kind of target in specific areas where folks need to grow, because that's another free resource. So
you said that's GCF?
yes, so GCF Learn Free.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, which is the Goodwill Foundation.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to plug that link in here. That's GCF Learn Free. And then this is just to throw North Star out there again. So you see, you go to this page, it says test your digital literacy, take an assessment. There you go.
Great. Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
And Cheryl, this is good morning, Cheryl.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hi.
I will follow up with you after the webinar.
Okay.
So you get connected to some additional resources.
All right, great. Thank you.
Yes. And Christian Noble asked for any additional pre-assessments for career development you'd recommend. And this is kind of in general, right? So I think, honestly, one of the most effective, if you're going to be doing a whole class or individual tutoring or anything like that, would be CASAS, which does connect to specific workforce domains if you're looking for a very broad career development assessment. So, and I know that's something that let's see. There you go. There's a lot of CASAS implementation stuff going on, but that is kind of the broadest workforce specific tool.
And
oh, great. Well, go ahead.
I'm sorry, we provide professional development on that.
Yeah.
And Stacy can share that with you. Additionally, we provide the TOSPRO enhanced units to partners and providers for free. So if you'd like to get connected to us, please let us know and we'll share that information with you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you just have such a wealth of support here in DC. It's wonderful. So, and Eddie asked for the page with all the resources links that we previously showed, and I think Stacy is probably responding in chat to that. So there's a couple different places. There's the OC resources links, and then there is this document, which is our contextualized lesson plans, which I created specifically for this mini PD series. That is available at blog.mustseed.org. So it's a downloadable document there. And this will be updating with whatever the most recent webinar is, but all 7 webinars will use this document right here. So that, you know, if you've been to one, You can access the links for all of them. But hopefully you still come to the session and get to have some of this dialogue.
And Megan, this is Stacy. I might need to, because there are so many great materials on the website already. I might need to check in with you and just make sure that I am seeing the right one, so that then I can send out the link to the Word document, so that everybody has it.
Yes, absolutely. So, and the one I have on my website is the PDF version, just because, not everybody's on the same system. So I will send you the editable Word doc that you can then send out by email.
Happy to. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. And Michelle also put in Career Coach DC also includes 2 career assessments. So this is an excellent one. DC Career Coach. There we go. Gonna put the link in chat there. So when you go here, here's take a career assessment right there. There we go. All right, and Jamila Love, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, is asking about getting a recording. And so Stacy Downing right now is recording, and will be once that processes, she'll be sending it out to the OC email listserv so that you can get refresh and get started.
Absolutely. We'll get that out within the coming days, and no more than a week.
Awesome. So these are
and those of you who are our DC government colleagues, and then maybe some other colleagues, the recording will also show up in the end of the chat, so you may be able to access it there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the other page, the OC resource page, correct, has links to all your previous professional development. Is that correct? So it'll probably go up there as well.
It will.
Awesome. Yay. So lots of places for you to find it by email and then on their website.
And if you go to our website, many of the resources that Megan shared that are available from OSCE, there are video presentations about those products on the website, Essential Education, Career Coach, Virtual Job Shadow. We brought in those presenters in a previous PD Institute. So check out the videos to learn more about those products. And there you go. They're on the, those video vignettes are on the, scroll back up, Megan.
Okay, yeah.
They're on the adult educator page.
Oh, okay, got it. So if I go back to topics, adult education, and then adult education and training, or AFE, and then adult education instructors. Excellent. So you have your graduate certificate program, which we should also mention that Dr. Bruce runs, learning needs screening tool, and then here's our professional development information, and here's our links to some of the past mini professional development institutes.
Yes, and down below in our first one, I think in 2020, further down at the bottom, we do have all those links to Essential Education.
There we go.
All those down there.
Yes, Virtual Job Shadow, DC One Stop Operator. So these are excellent. Career Coach DC. So you can go more in depth into each specific resource. That's awesome. All right, so we'll do a link directly to this page for you, Miss Love. There you go.
We offer PD scholarships throughout the year. Will be where you're able to participate in this is a new PD scholarship right there, the one that Megan has on the screen. Where
they speak for you.
Yes, you can take advantage of any of those when we make those announcements as well.
Awesome. Yay. So wonderful. Thank you all so much for spending this time to look a little bit at some of the wonderful resources you have available to you and how we can apply it. If there's any other questions, feel free to hang on, but I think that hopefully we should come back together again at 2 o'clock, right? And that is hospitality that we'll be covering at that time.
Megan, we'd like to thank you so much for facilitating today's session on accessible online tools for contextualizing learning, focused on the WIC's high demand industry of information technology and business administration. We'd also like to thank all of you who joined us this morning. We hope that you'll find the resources and information that Megan provided to be extremely helpful. Feel free to reach out to AFETA if you have any questions, or reach out to anyone on the OSSE Adult and Family Education team. Dr. Heather Roos, thank you for co-organizing this session with us, and we look forward to seeing everyone again at 2 p.m. and or if hospitality is not an industry that you're focused on, we hope that you join us on tomorrow, Wednesday and or Thursday. So have a blessed remainder of your day, everybody, and we'll see you at 2 p.m.
Okay, thank you.